o'clock. Oh, where's my agenda at here? Mr. York, could you come and give us an invocation, please? If you'd all stand.
Let us pray. Almighty God, bless those who hold office in the government of this city, that they may do their work in a spirit of wisdom, kindness, and justice. Help them use their authority to serve faithfully and to promote the general welfare. Through their leadership, let all the people of our city renew the ties of mutual regard that form our civic life. By their example, help us welcome neighbors, old and new, in a way that men and women from various cultures and with differing talents may find with one another the fulfillment of their humanity. Through your Son, Christ our Lord. Amen.
Turn and face the flag for our pledges of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we start the meeting, I've got one cleanup thing, and that is the seating arrangements. Everybody had their druthers is where they want to seat, but I'd like to sit in the middle as being the mayor. If you'd want to still be on the left side, that's fine, but keep in mind the cutoff here is for the camera. But I would like to sit here in the middle, and however you guys want to do the rest of it is however you'd like to do that.
I'm fine, Mayor Kramer.
Okay. Dick, do you want to switch?
Where do you want to sit?
I'm going to sit in the middle.
He's going to sit in my seat.
Okay. So I move over where you are? Is that
Correct.
what you're saying? That's fine.
Yes.
So I'd go all the way over by here.
Unless you want some other arrangement. Yeah.
Would you like my water?
No, I've got my iced tea. Thank you very much. Get situated here. I'll have Tammy do the roll call.
Mr. Howell?
Present.
Mr. Winger?
Here.
Mrs. Turner?
Here.
Mr. Old?
Here.
Mayor Kramer?
I am here. And does the staff or city council have any adoptions, additions, or changes for our agenda here?
Staff has no changes.
Council?
Make a motion to adopt as is.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Proclamations, we do not have any proclamations. With that, we'll go into public comment. We have a lot of people in the room. Is there anybody that would like to? I'm detecting yes.
My name is Shotzi LaJoy, 3635 Flamingo Drive, Vero Beach. I know we're on item 3. What I'd like to do is acknowledge a celebrity in the room. We have the 1964 gold medal winner, Joe Amlong, at the Japan Olympics. Where's Joe? He rode out of Vespers Boat Club, and Joe is a long-time boat club member all over the world, and he's very, very happy for us today, I know.
Well, wonderful. We're glad to have you with us. Is there anyone else that would like to come up and speak?
Hi, good evening. I'm Dan Lambton. I'm the Executive Director of the Indian River Neighborhood Association, and I've got a short statement about the land at the Postal Annex and the power plant and the, that area right there for what we'd like to just mention going forward. So, here it is. It is the recommendation of the Indian River Neighborhood Association that a vision plan be developed for the eventual use of the city-owned property Located at the intersection of Indian River Boulevard, the Alma Leloy Bridge, and 17th Street, currently occupied by the Vero Beach Electric Utility, the Vero Beach Water Treatment Plant, and the vacant property formerly occupied by the Post Office Annex. The intent of this vision plan would be to determine the future use for some of the last riverfront and adjacent parcels within the city. We feel it's appropriate to retain the service of a facilitator, much as the original vision plan employed professional consultants. This would assure full participation of all those in the city who have interest in the future use of those lands. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further public comment? Mr. Mucher?
Mark Mucher, 617 Indian Lilac Road. I've heard some rumors, and you all have mentioned it before, but I just want to suggest to you, the new council, that you take this opportunity to put to death, now and forever, a further investment in the FMPA and their solar project. So I hope that comes up at some point, either under discussion or just an up and down vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's an interesting question. Randy, you're on the FMPA board.
Yes, I am.
Has that been coming up for discussion at all?
I asked that it actually be circulated first to the Utility Commission, and then they look at it. I think it's really instructive to take a good look at it, because FMPA is initiating a solar project for their members, and whether we join it or not is irrelevant, but just the idea of following it and watching one come together, I think, is instructive for us. So I think it would be a good idea to do something with it, but I don't suggest that we necessarily take power from it, but we just take knowledge from it. I suggested that the Utility Commission look at it first and then bring it to us afterwards.
Okay.
Have we received any information on it?
Yeah, there's a package that I
There's a
sent you.
package, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anybody else would like to speak under public comment?
You know, Jay, regarding that one too, I think Randy's right, but I think we're fully committed as far as power resources, wholesale power. We're not completely happy with being fully committed, but I don't think there's any freeboard, and I think I'm right. Am I not, Jim?
Correct. There would have to be some modifications in order to do that.
Okay. Well, I just want to know informational-wise so that it does come back around. We do have a discussion about it. Public comment. Are we satisfied that we're done here? If so, we're going to go ahead and go to the consent agenda. Is there anything that anybody would like to pull for more detailed discussion?
Is there anyone from the public? I believe there is. Which one?
Public comment.
Well, we got to have public comment, but we need to know if somebody wants to pull one for.
It's fine, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor. Thank you.
Is there anybody that'd like to have any public comment concerning any of the items on the consent agenda? Mr. Day? Please keep in mind the rowing club lease issue is on the consent agenda, so if you'd like to speak on that issue, this is the time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Congratulations, Mr. Kramer, and welcome, Mr. Howe, to the Vero Beach City Council. I hope you enjoy your 2 years. You'll find it very interesting. And good morning, or as I were, good evening, council members. I do want to discuss item number 3, which is the lease agreement with the rowing club, and I have a little bit of paperwork to give to you all to follow along. Thank you. Thank you. There are merits to the concept of a rowing facility. Please consider these points while you discuss the proposed rowing club lease. The proposed lease is for private use as a club on public land without consideration to access for general public at no cost. In 2014, the City of Vero Beach Public Land Use Referendum won 4,288 votes. The proposed lease does not follow the spirit of the 2014 referendum that protects public lands in the city charter. It could be reasonably discussed that Indian River County has more land available for recreational use. There is no requirement for the City of Vero Beach to approve or enable this private club concept. This is a lease for not-for-profit that is not open to the general public at no cost. The dog park was given a short-term lease with many stipulations. They have complied and are public-friendly at no cost to the general public. The museum, Riverside Theater, Vero Heritage, just to name a few, are open to the general public at no cost and through tickets and memberships. It is unclear Indian River Drive East will be blocked to park users. And if you could answer that tonight, I would appreciate it. How will the current bait fisher people be affected? Will they lose their little bait site there? Will the floating dock be accessible to the general public at no cost? So if you could consider those questions, I would appreciate it. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Shotzi, let me do this. Let me go ahead and poll number 3 for discussion and see if I can get a motion to just pass the remaining items for the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to pass the other 3 items.
I'll second that.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'll go ahead and, Mark, I'm sorry, did you?
Sorry, I guess it's too late, but I didn't want to pull, but I wanted to just mention the outage management system. 4 of you live on the island. I live in Central Beach. We've had significant outages over the last several months. I spent all Monday morning repairing the damage from repeated outages. I looked at the backup material and it says transmission and distribution has no outage management system at this time. I would just heartily support this outage management system because we do have serious reliability problems. And I've said before, I believe this effort to reduce rates is contributing to the lack of reliability of the electric system, at least on the island. And I sure hope that the over $500,000 we're putting into the Indian River Shore substation comes online soon and is effective in improving our reliability. Thank you.
With that, Shotzi, would you like to?
Do you want me to address these?
Did you get a copy of these?
Yeah.
Okay, if
Just
you would,
now.
I appreciate it.
I
Okay.
assume is what we did.
Thank you, Ken. And I just want to say we did address every single one of these items as we were going through the lease, and I think that's a good idea that you bring it up at a public forum because we have been going back and forth in meetings with the different commissions, the Marine Commission and the Rec Commission specifically have asked questions like this about our membership, our accessibility. So to the best of my understanding of what we have talked over, I will try to give you a summary. The Rowing Club's 501c3 is based on other community rowing clubs in the United States, and the membership fees that are charged are similar to existing community rowing programs, not private clubs. Private clubs have a very different fee structure and accessibility requirements. And so basically we talked about that and how that would work with our club, because we have to maintain very expensive equipment so that people can use those boats. And and it's not a private club. It's open to anyone who wants to row. And private means someone might be excluded. The cost of our club has to be funded by the people that use it in order for us to provide the sport, unless we have operational grants. And when we have those, we'll be able to offer the sport at reduced fees. And that's our long-term goal, but we don't have that in place now because we have to have something to build. I don't know much about 2014 referendum to make an intelligent response to that, so I'm going to go to the next one. It could be reasonably discussed that Indian River Rowing has more land available for recreation use. I'm not sure what that means. There is a requirement from the city of Vero Beach to approve or enable this private club concept. Again, I just want to go over, this is not a private club, this is a community rowing facility, and everything that we have discussed with the city, our model is based on community programs.
Can I ask a question
Sure.
at this point, Mr. Kramer?
Yes, you may.
Yes. Is there the possibility, like the sailing club or some of the other clubs, of people participating without paying anything?
Yes.
You explain.
We would get scholarships. Mostly it would be for youth and adaptive rowers, handicap, special needs population.
Yes, but I mean, again, the sailing club, any high school student can go at no charge. And I'm not saying it should always be that way, but we have a great many disadvantaged people in the general community, including Indian River County, and I'm just concerned that someone that doesn't, what is the charge going to be, if you know?
Ask the question again.
What is the charge for a young person to row going to be?
Right now, the regatta fees and the charges are around $1,300.
See, that's not acceptable to me. I mean, there's got to be some provision in this document that provides for, no different than the museum or the sailing club or whatever, where there can be gratis for those that are disadvantaged. Because it's public land.
Okay, we do have outreach to the Boys and Girls Club, and we do have programs in place that we've invited people in for free, and that's all part of us trying to get people introduced to the sport of rowing. Basically, what we've talked about is we need a facility in order to offer these outreach programs that you're asking us, to give. And at this point, we have extended ourselves. We have offered free to learn to rows to children and to adults. And I don't think that our model is going to change.
Well, the answer of $1,300 shocks me, quite frankly, because on the mainland of the city, there's many people that can't afford that.
Okay, yeah, just a second.
Maybe I can address this. Hi, I'm Gary Mara, 4507 Bethel Creek Drive. I'm the director of the rowing club. I'm the one who deals with these kinds of things. So the $1,300 is for anyone who wants to participate for a year on our competitive rowing team, the one that travels, the one that competes, the one that has regular coaching 5 days a week and requires a great deal of resources. That's to cover costs. We're not making any money off of that. For a youth membership, it's a cost of $200. Although, again, that's not hyper useful because it would be dangerous for us to be sending out the kids without supervision. So they're really directed towards the competitive rowing because that's where the supervision is. That being said, as Shotzi was saying, we do allow any youth in the area to come out and try it free for 2 weeks before paying anything. In addition to that, this past fall, like back through August and up through basically into October,
We ran a program where we partnered with the Youth Guidance Program, and they brought young members of the community who were disadvantaged and couldn't afford stuff like this in for weekly sessions where they got to go out and row, and we taught them the safety and everything that goes into the sport so that they could have access to that, and that was free of any costs. We also have discussed with them the possibility of adding scholarship rowing, and that's just something that's pending us reaching a point of funding where we could do that. So there's a lot of effort, there's a lot of things in place that are trying to get us to a point where costs can come down for everyone, but especially for those in what you would describe as a disadvantaged role. But that's kind of where we're at now. Again, the 1,300 is for people who are traveling around, competing, doing all of that. That's not what the people who just want to go out and row on our river are doing.
Well, I think it can be dealt with, but it should be dealt with. The Sailing Club has a director, a professional director, as a matter of fact, and there is no charge for people under a certain age, 12, and there is no charge for high school students. And I'm not saying you should be the same, and the $1,300 bothers me less than the $200 because if they're on a team going around the country, that's one thing. But this is public land, and, in effect, there should be provisions in whatever we do so the public has use or that there's access for those that are disadvantaged. That's my opinion, only an opinion. I rest my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, we have more further public comment.
Annabelle Robertson, 850 Royal Palm Place. Some of you know I'm also the executive director of Harvest Food and Outreach Center, which is the largest anti-poverty organization in Indian River County. And to speak to the point of access to rowing as a benefit to young people, I think the scholarship opportunities made available to disadvantaged youth through this program are tremendous and would be a tremendous benefit to this community to provide college opportunities. We are currently working on, they know, our board, we're actively working on funding for scholarship opportunities to row both on our competitive team and to make accessible rowing to the youth of this community. Thank you.
Is there any further public comment? Shotzi, you?
Well, I just also want to get back to the issues that we were having, and that is that we know we need enough resources to be able to make a significant impact. There's a lot of infrastructure issues of transportation, getting youth to and from the boathouse that are outside of, let's say, their scholarship, for them to be able to access the sport. And that is a common problem with other outreach programs for disadvantaged youth. And that is something that, not only do we underwrite the cost, we also have to figure out a schedule in order to get people transportation to and from, because the parents don't have accessibility. So, that is one of our major points. We brought that up every time we've been in front of the council, and I don't think we have done anything we said we wouldn't have done so far. I think we've proven ourselves. It's just that we have not been able to do everything at once.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question, please? Ms. LaJoy, how many times have y'all been before the Recreation Commission and the Marine Commission? I know you were most recently in front of them again, and I understand we have received approvals from both of those commissions to move forward.
Right. We this summer we were in front of you in September, and then we came back in October, and then we met with we had met with the Marine and the Rec Commission prior to that meeting, and then we had City Council directed the City Attorney to draft a lease. And then that came back here, and then we were directed to meet with the Marine Commission and the Rec Commission, and November 2nd, I met with the Marine Commission, and our attorney, Wayne, was there. And Jim O'Connor stopped in and answered city questions because this is the lease that you drafted for us. Then we went to the Rec Commission, and we went through the same thing, and Mr. O'Connor and Wayne were also there. And then I was asked to also go to the ambulance squadron, and I went over there, and I gave them a copy of our lease, and that was also November 10th, to just make sure that they knew what we were doing, and we were well received there. So I'm not really sure what this is about, but I can go and touch the rest of this because we have talked about all of this with the city departments prior. So the general public is allowed to use our dock at no cost. That's a dock for everyone, and we talked at length about that, is that we don't have a problem people throwing their nets off the dock. We're not going to have any of those tie-ups. What do you call those things with the ropes, the cleats? The cleats. We won't have any of those on our dock. And we'll probably have to have some safety signs because of when boats are coming in, if people are on the dock, the oars come up, so we're going to have some kind of a safety sign so that they know what's going on. The museum does charge a membership fee. They charge fees for every single class that they, except for their outreach programs, which they, by the way, just started recently. They've been involved with the community since 1986, and they now have finally and happily been able to have their own department of outreach, and this is since 1986 that's 30 years. So I think that we've already started, and I'm just very proud of us. It is unclear that Indian River Drive East will be blocked to park users. That I don't see as a problem. How will the current bait fishery, I talked about that, and will the floating dock will be accessible. So I think the biggest thing here that I saw was the private club concept, and in the event that we don't have a school rowing program, what happens is you need a boat club. And they call them boat clubs, but not for the privacy issue. That's just the name they call them. And it's not private. So I'm happy, very happy that we've done all the work that we've done, and we have all the children that have been served, and we've already had some scholarship offers in our group, and we're so happy that this sports in Indian River County.
Mr. Mayor, if I may ask another question. I'm glad you brought up the dock, and I want to use it to make a point. And by the way, I think rowing's a great sport. I think this is positive. But yet, one of the things that, as public officials, we are charged with is being sure that something is right for everyone. I want to draw your attention to page 2, Article 5, use of premises, and item A, limitations and conditions on use. Excuse me. Tenants shall only occupy or use the premises solely for the public and civic purposes specified and similar related functions. That's great. Tenants shall be solely responsible for the operation, management, and maintenance of the premises consistent with the lease. My problem is this lease in no way says that the dockage is going to be available. You should have first call of the dockage. I have no problem with that. But it has no reference to the fact that you could say no one could use this dockage under this lease the way it's written. I have in both A and B here, I've got 3 sentences that I think would modify it and make it clear that when you don't use a part of the facility, and there's parts of the facility that certainly have to be locked off, like the boat storage, I have some wordage that would, in effect, make it clear that there is public use. For instance, I'm using the dockage as an example. Mm-hmm. But
can I ask you a question? It's just a question.
I'd like
because we had this up a few weeks ago, and you had the lease then, and And there wasn't any of this going on then, so I just don't understand. I'm just confused, Dick. That's all.
Don't be confused. I said when it came to us the first time, it needed to go back and be fully vetted. And I still see a problem with it in that what I'm suggesting to you is you could put up a sign on the docket, or you could say the building is not accessible, the upper store, to anyone under any conditions under this lease. And it's public property. That's all I'm saying. All I would like to see is some minor tweaks in the wordage to make it clear that this remains public property for public use. And under this lease, that's not the case as it is now. In other words, the interest of the general public who owns this land has to be protected, as it was in the dog park. Anyone can use the dog park. Where the sailing club is, anyone can use the sailing club. And that's not true in this lease.
Well, I'd like to ask Wayne, because we talked about this when we were signing the licensing agreement about the public use of the dock, and I didn't know that there was anything legally.
You and I have had a conversation.
No, I was talking to Wayne. Okay. Not you. No, not you at all, Dick. It was Wayne, because when we were signing the licensing agreement. Was there anything in that? I'm just so confused right now. That
it had never been raised as an issue to me, but obviously there is wording we could put in similar as in the dog park lease that makes it clear that the public can still use the dock.
That's all I'm asking for, that we have wording similar to the dog park, that it's clear the public can use it. And it's not in this lease as it is.
Well, excuse me. John Cassendyke, 445 Date Palm Road, Vero Beach. You've had this material in front of you. Mm-hmm. You should have come up with these questions before.
Sir, this is the first...
Wait a second. I've got the floor. I've been involved in this. I came from Wisconsin. I've given lots of money to this thing. I don't expect a private thing. I'm telling you what it's all about. You're just raising questions that are ridiculous.
Sir,
yes.
This is the first time I've had a chance to comment on this particular lease. I'm sorry.
What? Where'd the lease come from?
Hey, guys, hold on. One at a time.
Where'd the lease come from? I read that lease. 18 pages. The city is so protected. We need your help. We don't need your harassment.
I'm not harassing you, sir. I'm just suggesting the land. They're taking the dock as an example. You could, under this lease, put up a sign no one else could use it. That's the way the lease is written. Well, it needs to be written like the sailing club.
No, it doesn't.
Or the dog park.
Guys, hold on a second. Ms. Turner, would you like to say
Mr. Mayor,
something?
yes, I'd like to ask. I mean, obviously have the Riverside Theater and the museum on public property, and yet they certainly have the ability to close their doors, to protect their assets, and to limit access. So I see, no issue here. The rowing club, they have gone through all the hoops. They've been in front of our commissions on numerous occasions. This lease was brought forward to council, granted before election, but it was on our consent agenda. They went through those commissions again, and I think that they're due a vote on this matter.
We're still under public comment, so you...
Todd Young, President of the Rowing Club. There's two separate things here, the lease for the property and the lease for the dock. Can we at least vote on the lease for the property so we can move forward with this thing? In the dock, I have an issue with letting everybody use it. Fishermen may use it, throw their cast net out there, bring it on the dock, leave all their dead stuff. Who's going to clean up after them? They don't always clean up after themselves. So just that kind of concern. So, okay.
Okay.
Why don't we just add that language and vote on it? Can we have a vote and then we add the language? I'm sorry, Dick, I just misunderstood what you were saying. And I don't see a problem with us identifying the dock area and making sure the public can use it. And I would like to just maybe, I don't know how you do it, but we've...
That'd be part of the motion.
Could be part of it, and then just add that, because I'm fine with that, Dick. I understand that now. I'm just confused. That's, I'm excited and confused.
Okay. Do we have any other members of the public like to speak on this matter? Mr. Degg?
Thank you, Mrs. Shachi Joy, for answering some of my questions. I appreciate your time. And that was one of the things I had a concern with, and I think one of the meetings I attended, it was brought up where the floating dock would be kind of open to the public, providing, that it doesn't interfere with the folks doing their rowing. I got that loud and clear. And I think if they can put that in there, obviously, I understand about, people messing up the dock. That wouldn't be very nice for the kids rowing. But I think if it's open up, it is public land. And the points that I've made here tonight to you all as the council members, you're the gatekeepers for the city of Vero Beach for the public lands. And all nonprofits have very good causes. And what we're looking for out in the general public is that our open space stays open. And what would happen, we don't have that much in the city of Vero Beach that the general public can use without any, no cost. What I call the regular people. And you start setting the bar as far as if you do this for one, then you got to do it for the other. The dog park, was, I think, a premier lease where those folks, they really did have to jump through a lot of hoops. I'm not kidding you. And they, like little doggies, and they did that. And it is open to all. And they talked about a model here where they want to reach out to the community, to the underprivileged youth, where it sounds to me like it would be open to all. They're it sounds like a new organization, and they want to do things for the community. And it is on record that they will reach out. And what I'm looking at is it's a long lease. It's 25 years long. And you all know, you're all business folk. Usually if it's not wrote down, it doesn't happen. It's a very long lease. In 5 or 6 years, most of you up there probably won't be there, except for the youngest one up there, maybe. But anyway, that's what I was kind of looking for, is the protection for the people. And the reason that I brought up the referendum, ma'am, was to refresh the council members' minds, and especially staff too, that charter referendum had a lot of votes, and that told the folks out there, all of us, hey, the land is important to the people. We don't have that much. So thank you for your time. I think...
Mr. Mayor?
We're still in public comment.
Yeah. No, I want to ask a question,
Okay,
Mr.
sure.
Digg.
Oh, anyway.
Mr. Digg, what
Thanks.
would make this satisfactory to you?
I think I think you answered the question on the dock situation. And I would think for their protection, with the good things that they said they were going to do, especially for the youth, where they're going to reach into the entire community, they made it quite clear. Number one, you have a fee of $1,300. I'm glad the fellow made that clear. It's for the training and whatnot. But if you want to come out and row, it sounds to me like these people are going to make it happen. I would make a recommendation to the folks that are looking for the lease that they include their model inside the lease, because the fellow talked about they do have a model. And that way it shows others that they are reaching out to the community and they're not shutting off the whole community. And you all know, like I know, a lot of people don't follow it as closely as some of us do, and all of a sudden they'll notice something's closed down, and then later on they raise Cain. Anyway, thanks for your time, and again, thanks for the explanations from the rowing club folk.
Thank you. Is there further public comment on this issue?
I'd like to comment again.
Certainly.
I get a little emotional about this.
Podium,
Sorry
please.
about that. But I came here only 5 years ago. No, about 7 years ago. And I live about a block from that park. And we tried to get a rowing club there, but the powers that be thought there wasn't enough room in 7.5 acres to have both a rowing club and a dog park. Now, I love dogs. I've had dogs all my life. And you couldn't put both of them there? I mean, come on. You people are smart. We need your help. We don't need your hindrance. You have an airtight lease. I read it all. I said to our president, I said, we can't even turn around with this lease. We're only asking for about 40 by 80 foot footprint for the building. Yes, we need some access, but I mean, it's a no-brainer to have them both there. We're not trying to cut anybody off. It does take money to run a rowing club. You can't give it away because there's too many costs. But there's costs in everything. There's nothing free. And I suggest that you've seen the lease, that you call the question and vote on it tonight, as is.
Okay, is there any more public comment? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the lease as submitted.
A second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any other comment or amendments?
Mr. Mayor, would it be appropriate to make an amendment to the effect that the either the facilities and or the dockage, that the tenant have absolute first right, but when not in use, they could be available for the general public?
There would be a second for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, may I just...
Okay. Jim?
I have a question. They opened it up for the public. Who's going to maintain the dock?
That was my question, Mr.
Right.
O'Connor. Thank you so much.
And the facility, not just the dock. I mean, I heard also the facility in general.
Because we're trying to make sure that the tenant is responsible for the property.
If we make it just the dock, but to answer your question, the dog park is responsible even though anyone can use the land.
But they also have the right to exclude people. That lease does give them the right to exclude folks.
Mm-hmm.
And it also is a structure that they've built there. I mean, in the dog park, you're talking about land and yeah, maybe a few park benches. Here you're talking about a building and a floating dock that's quite costly to install and to maintain.
My concern is to make sure that this is an arm's length transaction, that we have a tenant that is operating on there and we are not a responsible party. And that's the way Wayne tried to draw this lease, is that they would be the responsible party. I have no problem saying it's, for public and all this other stuff, but make sure that we're not the ones cleaning up.
I certainly think once you start making these further refinements in that area, that it could be imposing the city as far as maintenance of this facility.
For discussion, Wayne and Jim, if you read A, limitations, conditions on use, tenants shall only occupy or use premises solely for the public and civic purposes specified and similar related functions. So what you're suggesting is that the word public conveys that it's available to the public, and that's sufficient as to itself.
That's the way.
Well, the next paragraph under supervision by tenant and control of premises, it does make it clear that they are in control of the premises. So they could exclude persons when they're using it for themselves. It doesn't have that specific language in the dog park lease, which I pulled up. It actually has the provisions that says the premises shall be open to the public without charge. Tenant shall not charge any person for use of the premises or participation in the activities, whether by way of a membership, entry, or other fee. Of course, again, we're talking about land and the use of that open land for dogs, not a pretty big investment is what I'm guessing.
Well, this comment, it would be satisfactory to me if that wording was added not for the building but for the dock and any outside premises. I would be happy, and I would change my amendment there too.
Would you like to take back your amendment?
I'll take back my amendment, and the only trouble is I'm not sure I can come up with the wording.
Well, it would be a modified version of this, and because of allowing it open, we would probably, as the city manager was mentioning, I think there is some. Well, anytime a tenant is in possession, they have the right to exclude people if they're basically can be trespassed from the property because they have violated the law or they're disruptive or whatever, they still have that right because they're under this lease, they're in sole possession, which is really what we want because, as Jim said, we don't want to be responsible for the property and maintenance or liability or, So we would just have to modify that a bit to make it clear, basically, that the dock area, which is described in attachment B to the lease, would be open to the public's use without charge.
Could you recommend something now that we could go ahead and pass?
And that may very well be sufficient, just to say that the leased premises, and I don't have the exact wording of how we worded it in the lease, but the leased premises, as shown in attachment B for the dock area, shall be open to the public without charge.
I'll make that as a motion.
Second. Shotzi, how do you feel about that?
I think it's fine because we talked about it and we thought that we'd have to have a sign that said, yield to rowers. That's basically all we thought we'd need.
And again, because they are technically in control, if they need it for their activities, that probably would be permissible for them to exclude those persons at that time, any other persons at that time.
Okay.
I mean, you're not using it 24 hours a day.
No. I mean, we already thought about that, and I didn't think about it as an amendment, but if that's what you'd like, that's fine.
Okay, well, I think we've reached a point. Would you?
One more point. What about liability if someone else is?
Unfortunately, you're in the same position as the dog park folks. They are in possession. They have to provide the indemnification. They have to provide the insurance. So,
and we're going to have to provide insurance, and if someone goes and gets hurt on it, then they're going to be looking at us.
You're the tenant, and you're going to be responsible for it.
And we're allowing them to get on the dock and possibly hurt themselves.
It's just like any other city property where it's leased to a tenant. That tenant is responsible.
This comment, Mr. Mayor, if I may, the reality is this floating dock is going to get used by others anyway, and you're going to have the liability. So why? It's reality.
Are we happy with the language?
Are you happy?
Pardon me?
Are we happy with the language? I'd like to vote on this and get moving.
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
All right. Could you repeat the language for the amendment?
Well, again, I'm paraphrasing because I'll have to work it into the same language we used in the lease. Premises as for the dock area, as shown in Exhibit B, shall be open to the public without charge. We could add when not in use by the tenant.
Add that.
Okay.
Do you have a second to that?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor of adding the amended language to the contract, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Mr. Howell, which way did you go?
Said aye.
Okay, so motion passes 4-1. We're now going to vote on the contract or the lease in its entirety. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have a lease.
I also think you ought to be very proud of yourself. This little nitpicking with the lease, this kind of thing is necessary, but you guys have done a wonderful job, and you really ought to be proud of yourself. And obviously, you've got the intent to really be good citizens here in the community, and you're a new startup 501c3, and it's difficult to do everything at once. So you're commended. There's no question about that. We're not questioning you and saying, hey, you're doing a bad job. That's not what's going on here.
Yeah, in
You'd
this
be a
comment,
great asset to the community.
Absolutely.
Thank you so very much.
This comment, I agree with everything that Mr. Ohl said, and I think this location, next to the bridge, in many respects is superior to the original one. The boats will be farther away from, yachts coming in and out. Where it is, it's an area that's isolated onto itself. So congratulations. I'm sorry that I also have a responsibility to the general public, but congratulations.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to pause a second.
Shotzi and Todd,
Still didn't have a consent agenda.
we may have to at least initial one page. So
Right now?
no. I'll get with Todd tomorrow.
No, we did because we lost Mark Moocher. We did it before Mark came up.
You're right, we did. I remember the motion.
Okay. I'm just pausing to give everybody the opportunity to leave. We're going to move on to public hearings. We do have, A, B, C, D, and the last one is I guess B is a quasi-judicial. These are final readings and require a roll call vote. And the resolution for City Council regarding the Dodgertown land. Who is going to do the presentation for this one?
We can do the presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to read the entire title.
True. Mr. Visvak, I'm going to let you do this.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, determining that certain city-owned real property comprising of 35.24 acres located south of 26th Street and east of 43rd Avenue, commonly referred to as the Dodgertown Golf Course, is no longer needed by the city, and authorizing the city manager to offer said real property for sale, providing for conflict and severability, and providing for an effective date. Requested by the City Council.
Okay.
Let me explain the process that we plan to follow, assuming that you pass this. We would put out an RFQ for a real estate agent or a real estate firm to help us market and sell the property. And so we would go through that exercise, make a selection there, bring the recommended selection back to the City Council for approval, and then we would hire a real estate firm. It's not in our nature to be able to sell real estate, and I'm afraid if we just write up a real estate contract and put it out on the market and say bid on it, it would be better if we had a professional that was working. I think we can get some pretty good rates by putting out a request for qualifications and proposals. So it wouldn't be qualifications, as Wayne points out. They're not protected under the like engineers. So the proposal would have to have a cost figure in it, so we would be looking at that. But I think it's the proper mechanism. Most real estate companies, but especially the large ones, have ways of advertising that we would not have people to touch, and hopefully the markets that we could touch, and then try to figure out how to sell the properties.
Mr. Mayor?
Laura's got the
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. O'Connor. I was going to say it's getting the city out of the real estate business and realizing that, it is not an area of our expertise. So I would certainly concur that we get some professional help. Thank you.
Mr. Winger?
Yes, I have a feeling, and I think Mr. O'Connor has the same one. I don't know that we necessarily want to sell it for the highest price. It should be the best use and highest price in combination. In other words, there could be uses of it that are better for the community than other uses that may not bid quite as much money as the case may be.
Right. And we obviously, they have to fall within the zoning, so anybody that would come in would know that and how they would deal with that, so we would get another shot if it was something that was going in that was not compatible with the zoning. I don't really want to limit the market. The key is that we would have the right to review what is being proposed. But any limitations we put on it drives the price down and also gets us into a quagmire as to how to develop a piece of property. 35 acres is pretty substantial.
How would we decide between 3 or 4 bids that were close and for completely different uses?
I think that would be a determining factor.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, using this one as the case, to me, the price being paid is a driving force. It is, unlike the diesel plant, I think the diesel plant has 2 factors. One is something that we would want to go in there that would conform to our downtown area. In this particular piece of ground, I'm not sure we have anything out there that we would be looking for that would conform. But, Mr. Old, the bottom line is you would have the right to accept or reject that at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And we would go through, hopefully, the vetting process administratively. We would have our real estate, whoever that person may be, sort of give us the nuances of the market itself. And then, it
might become very obvious or not.
It may be.
Yeah.
And the other thing is now, in the contract we have, the county also gets to review. They only have right for input. They don't have the right to accept or reject. But we would solicit their input since they're an adjoining property owner.
Just a quick question. What do you see as the timeline on this? Is how fast we can get it going and when it can get to completion?
It'll probably take us 30 days to get a board. and then working with that person as to how we're going to advertise and market the property. We would probably want to do a 45-day due diligence when we put it out on the market. And that due diligence would give everybody the time to do the history and the research and that type of detail. So it'd probably be the end of January, first part of February.
Okay, so somewhere in February we'll be looking at
that would be my hope.
uses.
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor, from my own curiosity, when you have a transaction like this, what's the typical? Does the agent or agency that helps you, do they receive a commission, and if so, what's the typical commission on a transaction like this?
Well, a standard market transaction can be anywhere from 5 to 7.
Yeah, and that would be one of the things that we would be asking for in the request for proposal. What's the commission you're going to ask for?
And so hopefully we think that, because we probably have a minimum bid of like $3 million, that's what our appraisal is. And so hopefully whoever we would bring on could give us good pricing, because they're going to be competitive as well. So it would be totally up to the real estate firm.
Okay, thank you.
Before we get too much further into this, I need to know if there's anybody that would like to have any comment on this, any public input as to the decision. Mr. Day?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the record, Ken Daig, 1846 21st Avenue. My question on this piece of property is, how much is due on the property now, the loan?
Between 5 and 6 million.
How much?
Between 5 and 6 million.
So, wow. And it's only worth $3 million.
In today's market.
So
it was not a real good real estate transaction when it was done. And again, that's one of the reasons we want to get out of the real estate business.
Yes.
It's just simply my question was, I wanted to know how much is due, because it's a loan that. It's my understanding it's a loan. It's not a bond. It's actually a loan, and a payment is due every month. In the event that it goes for, let's say, less than $3 million, we owe close to $6 million, so that the rest of it will be picked up by the taxpayers, the shortfall. Is that correct, sir?
Right now, your 1 cent sales tax is picking up the total.
The 1 cent, okay.
And it's about $600,000. The theory is whatever we can get out of this would offset that tax that would free up money for capital projects.
And my last question, the property deed carried zoning restrictions, but you as a council had those restrictions lifted?
Yes.
And now what's the current zoning now on the property?
Tim, do you know? I don't remember what it is.
Well, I know it took us a while to get those restrictions lifted.
It did take us quite a while.
It's one of the commercial zones at the airport, which is a whole variety of different uses, commercial uses.
Yeah.
So with that being said, with the restrictions lifted, it may be a little bit more valuable if I understand the P&Z director, commercial would mean you could possibly do a motel there, correct?
Sure, but this is a lot of area for a hotel.
Well, I mean, it gives,
we would anticipate multiple land uses.
Multiple uses.
Unless someone came in to build, a residential subdivision or something.
But anyway, the restrictions are gone.
That's
Thanks.
correct.
Is there anyone else that would like to have public comment on this? If not,
I'll make a motion to pass it as is.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. This is a roll call. I'll ask Ms. Bach to call the roll.
Mr. Howell?
Present.
Mr. Winger?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Rold?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes. Okay. Item B. Ms. Bach, you did so well on the first one. I'm going to let you read it, but this is a quasi-judicial, so
An ordinance of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, requested by Camp Haven, Inc., amending the official zoning map by changing the zoning district designation of C1B General Commercial Trades and Services District to C1 Highway-Oriented Commercial District for property located at 3256 U.S. Highway Number 1 and the R.D. Carter subdivision, containing .95 of an acre more or less, providing for an effective date, requested by the Planning and Development Director.
Tim, before you get going, I've got to do a disclosure of council members for ex parte communications. And I definitely have got to disclose that because I work with Camp Haven quite a bit, and I've actually talked to the director there about actually doing this project, which I'll save my comments for that later. But has there been any other council member that has had any communications or visited the site?
I've certainly visited the site, but it's still nothing to do with this zoning change.
Okay. And then we do have the swearing in by the applicant staff and other witnesses that would like to testify upon this.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. Well, I guess it says that I'm supposed to make an announcement as to exhibits, but I'm going to go ahead and let you go ahead and make a presentation.
I'll go along on this. All right. Camp Haven, Inc. is requesting a rezoning of its 0.95 acre property located at 3256 U.S. Highway 1 from C1B to C1, as shown on the location and zoning map I've shown on the screen. The subject property is located between 33rd and 32nd Street. The site is currently occupied by Camp Haven, which provides a transitional homeless shelter. The use is currently a non-conforming use. The site had been the former site of the Citrus Motel, which basically was a non-conforming use even as a motel at that time. Directly across, just to give you what's around it, just across the US 1 is the Florida East Coast, the railroad, and of course our wastewater and water treatment facilities over there at the airport. Properties along the north and south along US 1 are all zoned C1B and are commercial uses. Directly abutting the property are some vacant properties which are zoned multifamily. The property is designated mixed use as all the other properties along on the future land use map as all the other commercial properties along that road. The property is served by city utilities. It has access to US 1, which is designated an urban principal arterial on the comprehensive plan. In 2014, it carried over 29,000 vehicles per day. In comparing the proposed zoning of the C1B versus the C1, the key differences are that the C1B allows two uses, daycare and cultural and civic activities not allowed in C1. C1 allows 6 additional uses that include adult congregate living facilities, guest house, transit quarters, motels, hotels, vehicle sales and services, commercial amusements, and nursing and convalescent homes. The staff reviewed the application based on the standards that are set forth in Section 65 of the Land Development Regulations for the amendment to the zoning maps. In completing its review, the staff made certain findings, of which I'll just go over some of the significant. One, the staff found that the requested zoning is warranted and justified to allow for improvements and expansion of the existing use by bringing the property into compliance with the code. The applicant has expressed a desire to make internal improvements that would not be permitted as a non-conforming use. And I think one of the things, if they wanted to put kitchen facilities to serve the people that are living there at a time, and they could not do that and expand their facility under the current zoning since they are non-conforming use. The staff found that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the pertinent goals and objectives, policies of the comp plan, particularly policy 1.15, as C1 is an appropriate zoning category under the mixed-use future land use designation. The proposed C1 zoning is compatible with the immediate designations, as properties to the north and south are designated C1B, and commercial exists all along U.S. Highway 1. In fact, in staff's opinion, all these properties along there probably should be C1. And I had asked the applicant to see if they could get some other owners so we could, we normally don't like just single out a single property, but it would have taken them good knows how long to find all these property owners. So we went ahead with this, but we would certainly favor any other changes along that highway. The changed conditions to the property warrant an amendment. The previous use had been in existence since the 40s. The property has gone into disrepair and out of compliance with the zoning regulations during this time before being repurchased and rehabilitated by the applicants. To further improve the property, they need to have this rezoning, which is now currently hampered by the limitations. The staff found the proposed zoning is consistent with the concurrency requirements of the comp plan, the city's land development regulations. Under either zoning classification, the existing sanitary sewer, potable water, storm drainage, solid waste, stormwater recreation, and school systems have sufficient capacity. We did look at, as we normally do when we have a rezoning, we looked at traffic impacts, which usually are the most important impacts. Well, both zoning classifications, the highest traffic generating use would be restaurants. They both have that, so therefore it's a wash, and we did not look at that. And there's sufficient capacity in US 1. So based on these findings, the staff recommends approval on the 15th of October at a public hearing. The Public Planning and Zoning Board unanimously approved this ordinance. So unless you have specific questions of me, you may want to have the applicant, if they would like to come up and have an opportunity.
Is there any questions by the by City Council?
None.
Does the applicant have any questions for Mr. McGarry?
Oh, this isn't that kind of.
Well, no, I'm just following the rules on the sheet. I mean, you've got the ability to give a presentation if you'd like.
No, I was just present to answer any questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess the next step is an applicant presentations, and part of that is that the council could ask questions of the applicant. I assume that's your role.
Yes.
Yeah, would you just, for the record, just give your name so we just have it for the minutes?
My name is Clint Rogers. I am an engineer with Carter Associates, and we are the engineers for the project for Camp Haven.
Okay, wonderful. Is there any questions by the council?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
And I feel that this is a needed use in this community, and I think it's pretty well known amongst the members of the community that it's a good thing to have this move forward. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I'm not clear. Thank you.
Is there any members of the public that would like to weigh in on this issue? If not, we'll go through the rebuttal process, although I don't believe that's going to be too lengthy. Would you like to give your summation for the whole thing?
I would go forward. I think you've heard we're recommending approval.
Okay. The next step, if it's okay with the applicant, is we'll go ahead and discuss it amongst the council. If there is no discussion, we can have a motion.
I'm happy to make a motion.
Okay.
I move that based upon the competent substantial evidence presented in the applicable code provisions, we grant the application and adopt the ordinance as proposed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Vach, would you call the roll?
Mr. Howell?
Present.
Mr. Winger?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes. Motion passes
Yes.
5-0.
Sorry. Yes. Thank you, Council. Sorry. Tammy, sorry. Yes. I'm here. I'm still here. I'm still here. I didn't go anywhere. Yes.
Okay. I'll go ahead. Ms. Vach, you're doing a wonderful job. So item C.
An ordinance of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, abandoning the 10-foot alley lying in adjacent to and between lots 14 and 15, Block 35, map of the town of Indian River, original town, as recorded in Plat Book 2, page 12 of the Public Records of St. Lucie County, Florida. Said lands now lying and being in Indian River County, Florida, retaining a utility easement, providing for conflict and severability, providing for an effective date. Requested by the Public Works Director.
I can address that, Mr. Mayor. What this is an alleyway, and there's some flooding issues in the back. By closing the alley, retaining the utility easement, the property owners, adjacent property owners, are going to take care of the flooding issues that are occurring in that area. So we are highly recommending that we close this alley.
Okay. Is there any members of the public that would like to speak on this? If not, council members?
Mr. Mayor, I just had one question. In the notes, it said that improvements are required a parking area west of the alley. Could you elaborate a little bit, or to what is be required?
Parking permits west of the alley.
Improvements are required west of the alley, is what it said.
Monty Falls, Director of Public Works. As they were doing this, the property owner owns both sides of the alley, and they were using the vacant property to the west of the alley as a parking lot. As a condition of this, the planning department wanted them to move that into site plan compliance, and they have started doing that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. That I'm good. Move for approval.
I'll second.
If there's not any other comments from the council? Ms. Fox, would you?
Or any public comment? Did you already ask for public comment?
We did that before we did the motion.
I was asleep that time.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Winger?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Roll?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
D, an ordinance of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, relating to the budget for the City of Vero Beach, Florida for the period beginning October 1st, 2014 and ending September 30th, 2015, providing and establishing revisions to said budget based on revised revenue, expenditure, and transfer estimates, providing for an effective date, requested by the Finance Director.
Finance Director is here. If you have any questions, as you know, that was reviewed by the Finance Commission and recommended to be passed by the City Council. This is our year-end where we do the budget amendment that brings our revenues and expenditures more in line with what actually took place over the last fiscal year. We really had nothing that was out of place, but it just gives that conformance. You do this on an annual basis.
Mr. I would just like to commend Ms. Lawson, Mr. O'Connor, all the city department heads on keeping a close rein on their budgets and actually ending the year with a $463,000 balance. So, good job.
I have a question of Mr. O'Connor. When will we see the work that was done at the same session on the reserves coming forward?
The fund balance, to be, my recommendation is wait till the Finance Commission finishes with their.
All right. Thank you for your answer.
Okay. Before we do any motions, anybody from the audience would like to say anything? If not, council is at liberty to make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Fox, would you call the roll?
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Winger?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes. Item E. Tammy, I've got some notes here. Is this the first of second?
This is the first of two public hearings.
First of two public hearings. So do we actually need a vote on this one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you would read that, I'd appreciate it.
An ordinance of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 62, Article 3, C1A, C1B, B1, and C1 Commercial Districts, and Article 5, Downtown District of Part 3, Land Development Regulations in the Code of the City of Vero Beach to provide for government use as a permitted use, providing for codification, providing for conflict and severability, providing for an effective date, requested by the Planning and Development Director.
No, thank you, Tammy.
Just as a correction, it's Article 10.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say
The genesis for this text amendment arose from a problem citing a goal line shelter on a vacant county property in the downtown area. If the property had a use, the shelter could have been would be classified and allowed as an accessory use. However, as the best shelter is not a principal use, it can't be approved under the current regulations. And I know this is nitpicky, but that's part of what I do in my job. So, you get into these kind of things. Rather than just list the bus shelter as a principal use, which would have been an easy way out, it was decided that from the staff standpoint, it'd be better to come up with a broader classification that would satisfy the location of other public facilities and services, which would be difficult at times to get in there without interpretation. It was determined that the government use, which is defined in Chapter 60 of the appendix definitions, would adequately serve that purpose. And basically, and I'll just state it, government use is defined in the code as administrative offices, service facilities, parking lots or garages, utilities, or accessory structures related to the provision of federal, state, and local government services. In reviewing the list of allowable uses in the C1A, C1B, B1, C1 downtown districts, the staff found that the government use, these listed uses were compatible with basically all the uses in these districts. We just confined to the commercial districts without going into other districts. to simplify this. A related benefit to this approach is, I've just pointed out, it eliminates the need for the planning director to make written interpretations, and that's important. I can tell you in some of these depositions I'm doing on these legal cases, any such interpretations are always subject to appeal and legal challenge. So the more you can be specific on a use, the better it is. I also, as I point out in my memo, and if you read that, this amendment is really intended as a quick fix. The real need is for a comprehensive evaluation of the zoning districts, allowable uses, and their definitions. We have too many districts. There's a lot of things that need to be done with the code, but my feeling, this evaluation and implementation should come after we've done the comprehensive plan update. So just a note to you all. The staff's review found that the proposed text amendment complies with all the standards outlined in Section 6522 of the Code for Text Amendments. The Planning and Zoning Board recommend unanimous approval of this. Unless you have some questions of me, you could open it up to the public if anybody wants to say something about this.
We're losing our audience fast. Is there anybody of the public that would like to speak to this? If not, council?
No, you mentioned the comp plan. Where is that going? Where are we?
Well, that's a good point. Making steady progress on it right now. The problem is I have a consultant working on part of it. I'm doing the other part, and it's a tough road. Be honest with you, I don't think I can meet the February deadline, but we're just going to. I want us to have a decent document, so we're almost done with the existing conditions. I have a couple other chapters to do, but the land use was the biggest one I had to work on because I thought that was the most important in the whole document. But we want to coordinate all the other things, what you're doing, these things about what you want to do in the waterfront. We're trying to bring all that into this play, the cultural arts village and all that. So it's a big effort. But
so an estimate, a wild estimate about when.
Well, it'll be into spring, my guess, before we're all done. And we haven't. I'm waiting before I'm far enough along that we can go to the Planning and Zoning Board and start some workshops and get some public input. So,
I'm going to move for a second public hearing on January the 5th.
I'll second.
Ms. Fogg?
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Winger?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Thank you, Council.
Next, we have a resolution for the seismic air gun testing and offshore drilling.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Vero Beach, Indian River County, Florida, expressing opposition to the seismic air gun testing and offshore drilling in the Atlantic Ocean, providing for an effective date requested by the City Council.
Okay, this is a first reading. Do we have a?
This is
the only
final public
This
hearing.
is a final. Yeah.
I thought we left that last time where we were going to get some language from other resolutions. Or did I miss that in that last council meeting?
I think we had a sample resolution that we just simply copied. If I'm
right,
okay.
we took one from another location and modified it a bit.
She brought us one. I forgot the lady's name. She brought us a sample.
That's right. She did it actually pretty quick, didn't she?
Yeah. So we just.
Okay. Any discussion on this?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Still need to open it up for
I'm sorry.
public comment.
Would the public like to speak on this? Seeing none, Mr. Winger?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Second?
Second. Ms. Fox, would you call?
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Winger?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes. We have no public notice items. Ms. Fox, we've got some matters that...
We do. The first thing is the council committee appointments, and I guess I'll just go through each one of them and let you know who is serving on the committees now, and you just let us know if you want to continue serving on those or appoint with someone else. The first one is the Treasure Coast Council of Local Governments, and
I would
Mr.
like
Winger.
to continue serving. Actually, I was elected chair of it. We need an alternate. Might be a good thing for Mr. Howell to be the alternate. I don't know.
I have a few of the other.
You would
appointments
rather have
I'm
a
looking
Mr.
at.
Old? Would you be the alternate? It's one day at Fort Pierce. It's the day. It's the first Wednesday of the month if it follows City Council. And I suppose it's worth saying what it is. It's Treasure Coast Council of Local Governments. It's 4 counties, which could include a commission member from each of the counties. It's the school boards in 4 counties. It is the cities in 4 counties, so it would be like Port St. Lucie and so on. And
I'll be your alternate, Mr. Mayor.
That'd be fine. Glad to have you. And it is. There are numerous government agencies come. Representative Posey's representative comes. Mr. Nagrin's representative comes, and so on. So Mike Grubev comes. So I find it worthwhile.
Okay. The next one is the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council.
And I would ask to be replaced on this council.
I'll do that.
Randy? Yep. The next one is the County Economic Development Council. Mayor Kramer, you're presently serving on that.
I'm happy with that one.
Okay. The Tourist Development Council.
I'd like to be on that council. That's okay.
The Metropolitan Planning Organization. Presently, we have Mayor Kramer, Councilmember Turner, and we would need an alternate member.
I'll serve on that.
Treasure Coast League of Cities. Mayor Kramer is presently serving on that.
That's fine. I'm happy with that.
Okay. The Beach and Shore Preservation Committee.
I've served on it for 3 years, I believe, and was the alternate. I would like, I'm up to speed on it.
Okay, we would need an alternate member.
I'll do it.
Yeah, it's fairly worthwhile. I mean, it's our beaches that we would like to get Sector 5 fixed.
Okay. The Elected Officials Oversight Committee, that does require that the mayor serve on that.
Like okay, no choice.
The Enterprise Zone Development Agency.
I'd like to be on that, please.
County Affordable Housing Advisory Committee.
Which I've been on it 4 years and hasn't met yet, so.
I'm not even sure they're going to meet again. I'll have to check on that one.
I'll do it, but it's just a name. I'm not really doing anything.
You getting medals for that?
Yeah.
Representative on FMPA, Councilmember Old, serving on that.
I'd like to step down from that. I've done it, and what I would suggest is actually that we get Jim to do that, Jim O'Connor to serve on that.
I would be glad to be that representative. I think it's important that we have an elected official that's accountable to the ratepayers as a voting member on FMPA.
Okay. Do we have any other nominations? Would like to do that?
I'll nominate.
Okay. Well, I mean, it looked like this.
Well, Randy, do you want to nominate Mr. O'Connor? Or
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I guess we're going to have to do this as a vote.
We've got a number of things coming up. FMPA is important to us. There's no question about that. We do an awful lot of business with them. We can argue about how well they're run or how not. But I think one of the problems that I had as being an elected official is I didn't really know that much about it. And even studying hard, you really just don't understand enough to be able to lead it. You can look at some of the business things and understand some of the business aspects of it, but you really need some more experience. And I think Jim's got a lot of experience in utilities, and I think, and has served on it in the past. And I'm suggesting him as a person to do it.
Yeah. When did you serve on it, Jim?
Oh, it's been 25 years ago.
Oh, was it?
Well, did you not serve?
I have served for 3 years on FMPA. I am a civil engineer. I have built turbo facilities. I do have a knowledge of construction, electrical. And in the 3 years that I've been on the FMPA, the majority of the issues are not technical. They are financial. They're risk. They're that type of issues, selecting an auditors. I think it is very important you've got an organization that's using public funds and that we have an account for transparency and accountability, that we have elected officials serve.
I hate to say that. That actually just sounds like a banker. I mean, maybe I'm nominating you, Randy. I mean, I would rather have an elected official and somebody that actually knows that end of the financial world.
What are you saying?
I'm nominating you.
So
If you're okay with that, otherwise, I think Pilar would probably be best in that.
My nomination stands.
I would second Jay's nomination. I think Randy's done a good job. Randy made a small amount of progress in that getting them to bring in.
I have some issues that I am worried about and would like to see happen in terms of trying to get them to look at management. They have an auditor coming in, not an auditor, but a consultant coming in and talking to them about issues they've had in the past, and I would really like to see them look at the way it's managed. But I don't see myself staying out there a long time because I just don't see the progress that I can make there that I would like to be able to. I also think there are some other issues that I'd like to work with, and if it's the sense that I should stay on, I will. But I don't want to do it forever.
Well, you could stay on a limited time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing that says you have to do it the full year.
Yep. Right.
Okay. What's next?
Excuse me then. Is that I guess I was just been voted out of not being the FMPA representative, although I volunteered.
Well, the position wasn't open. I mean, you mentioned all the banking things that needed to be done with that. I just, it's his to give up if he wants.
I thought he started out the meeting saying that he didn't want to do it anymore. So
he still has that opportunity to give that up if he'd like.
I will stay on.
Okay.
Yeah.
The liaison to downtown Main Street.
I'd like to do that. Mrs. Bach.
Okay. Liaison to the cultural arts.
I would volunteer for that, but if someone else has a higher call, then that's fine too.
Okay. Liaison to the Chamber of Commerce.
I'll remain there.
Okay. And the Florida League of Cities Energy, Environment, and National Resource Committee.
Yeah, one thing for the council to understand is this involves going to 3 sessions a year. And it's a little more involved in that you interface with the Florida League of Cities one place and another. I would like to continue doing it. There's actually a session Friday. I've forgotten where it is. So if there's no objection. And I had one other comment. I would like to suggest that Mr. Howell, that we authorize him or whatever is necessary for him to go to the session.
Okay. Yes, we are working on that, and we're going to get him signed up.
Good. Sure.
Yeah, it's a great course. I think
I'd be happy to go. I would. Thank you.
Thank you. I did want to mention that Mr. Old has appointed Nathan Polakowicz to the Finance Commission, and he did come in yesterday and get sworn in.
Good.
And I'm still working on setting up that special call meeting for December 3rd. It doesn't look like 9:30 in the morning is going to work, so I'm going to try to see if the afternoon will work for you, but I'll get with everybody on that. That's it. Thank you.
And I would just like to ask Ms. Falk, I know with our last meeting we had Veterans Day fell on a Wednesday and we had a change of due date for agenda items. I would just like to ask you that in the future that you'd give council a heads up when there's going to be some change in the deadline for agenda items.
And I appreciate you bringing that up because there will be a change for our next agenda because it falls on Thanksgiving next week. So I will need your items by Tuesday at noon if you have anything to go on there.
Thank you very much.
What about tourism? I don't think we did that.
Yeah.
Yes,
you're still on it.
Did I agree to be on it?
Do you not want to be on it?
Can I allow somebody else to be on that?
Sure. Anybody Anybody else want to be on the Tourist Development Council? Oh, Harry's going to be on there.
I'll be on there. I'll be on there.
Okay. Okay, are you finished up?
I'm finished, thank you.
Okay, looks like we're going to, Jim, you're up.
I don't really have anything on the agenda, but be very happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Jim, I think it might be worthwhile commenting on the Circuit Court Cox's where we are in that whole thing.
I'm going to leave that under Mr. Comments. I did have one question from Mr. O'Connor.
Which matter with Judge Cox?
Well,
we've got a couple of them.
River Shores, I think.
Let's bring that under your matters.
Okay.
And Ms. Turner?
Yes, I just want to ask Mr. O'Connor. I noticed that we received a comment about the Vero Isles grant, that you were going to go ahead and accept that and then bring that forward as a budget amendment to council.
That is correct. And as long as we don't spend any money, the council is not obligated at that point, but we will be bringing forth a budget amendment, which about the only thing that we have available for a budget amendment will be out of the reserves. So we may have to address it in that respect if we want to proceed with the projects. Now, we can always turn down the grants this year and apply sometime in the future for the grants. And I think you saw the information from the state. What they want to do is be able to reallocate the money.
Certainly. And the total amount, dollar amount that we're looking at?
Ours would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 500, as I recall.
Okay, because then I'm still looking at that $463,000 carryover from the 14-15 budget.
Right.
So
yeah, you have, it's really a
available.
couple of projects that'll be a couple of grants that would take place over the
in
next
addition,
few months.
Just
That's
wanted to
correct.
comment. Thank you.
And I presume that the council has no, if somebody has objection to that, we might as well not go through the budget amendment, but we're trying to get the reserve policy completed and then have something work within the reserve policy, if at all possible.
Thank you, sir.
I think it's very necessary going forward with the project, and
Well, one of the things about going forward is that it's very difficult to turn down money and then go back the next year and expect somebody to vote for your grant. So you.
Is there any other questions for Mr. O'Connor?
None. If
not, Mr. Winger, your question with Wayne?
I just would like an update on the, I think more for the public. I think we all know where we are in the River Shores lawsuit and so on.
Yeah, as you know, Judge Cox did dismiss 3 of the counts of the 4-count complaint, the remaining count being the breach of contract, which she basically, what she did was she ordered, she is allowing the town to amend the complaint, in which case the city would have 20 days after that amendment to file an answer. But it's kind of also interesting that if we only have 20 days to answer from her order of dismissal and keeping the 1 count open. So basically, either way, we have to prepare an answer. Of course, Mr. Frost, working with Chef Wright, is preparing an answer at this time, and we'll be prepared to file that. It's anticipated that there's probably a good chance that they'll file an amended complaint, especially since she did reserve that they could bring back their claim having to do with having the city remove its facilities from their rights of way and what have you. So there's a good chance we'll see an amended complaint, which then we would just need to modify our answer to that or bring another motion to dismiss, depending on what they say in their new complaint.
But I think it's worthwhile stating, at least on counts 1 and 2, what they come to. In other words, the debate over the franchise agreement versus the territorial agreement issued by the PSC.
Right, and basically she agreed with the city's position and also the Public Service Commission's counsel that Public Service Commission has the sole and superior jurisdiction over territorial service areas. So that the judge did dismiss with prejudice, so they can't bring it back.
But they do have the right to go to the Public Service Commission if they choose to do so.
Sure, and they have the right to appeal too. They have 30 days to appeal that decision, so to the 4th District Court of Appeal.
Where are we with the the count thing and the Supreme Court? What's up?
The oral arguments, I believe, are around December.
They're December 10th.
10th, yeah.
Okay. Any friends of the court, have they come in and said anything? Any?
I haven't seen any filings because that is being handled by Mr. Wright.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we're not necessarily copied on everything that he may see that was filed with the court.
Yeah.
It's important to note on that, that is an appeal of a PSC determination. So we are sort of like the friends to the PSC.
Right, right. And that's what we're not really a party, but we're interested,
Yeah.
obviously.
interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? If not,
the other issue that I wanted to talk to you about was the BB redevelopment versus the city of Vero Beach. This is on the diesel plant. As you may or may not remember, we're set for trial in December. Docket call is actually November 24th. The trial period that's set by the court is between December 1st and December 18th. We're fourth on the list for trial. So we may or may not get to trial in that time period. It could get bumped over to January. We're hoping to, at the minimum, see that there's a pending motion for summary judgment on the tort issue of fraud that they claimed against the city because they never did the proper notice of a claim pursuant to Florida Statute 76828. It was never done, and we have lots of case law that shows it. And it's impossible for them to do it now because the claim accrued many years ago. They just never did it, and we're hoping the court will throw out that count, which basically then gets it down to the contract issues of whether or not the city performed what it's supposed to do and they performed what they were supposed to do. It gets right to the heart of the real matter. As you probably know, the city did accept back possession. I believe as of November 5th, they turned over the keys. There's some lingering issues. We don't feel we should hold up doing an RFP to get some proposals towards someone that might be interested. And I think Jim has said there's quite a bit of interest out there for the property to go ahead and get an RFP on the street and perhaps give, and that'll take a little time to put together. So between now and the end of the trial period, it would probably be, even before we got proposals back, would probably be sometime in January. If we give 45 days for people to, at least 45 days, I would recommend, to do due diligence and get back with proposals on that property. What we've done in the meantime is, and this is subject to the council's approval, what we'd like to do, because what we did in our very, very short agreement and acceptance of the keys, we said we're reserving our right to future rent. We're not cutting off the rent. What we'd like to do is go ahead and do a formal termination, if they agree, of the lease, reserving all of our rights under that are involved in the lawsuit. They would do the same thing, but we would be foregoing any future rent as of that date they turned over possession. But that would terminate the lease completely so that there's no lingering doubt that the city has absolute possession to it. They also have a leasehold mortgage on the property, which they're going to have to deal with. So long as the leasehold can be claimed to exist, the bank could also claim that there's some claim against that leasehold. So if we terminate that, the advantage for them is they remove any doubt as to whether or not they'd have to pay future rent and future taxes, because as of November 15th, that would also cut off the taxes. But unless the council objects, we're going to continue to pursue that to just clean up the loose ends and make sure that there's no issue as to who owns the property, or that there's any claims still against the property.
it almost sounds like you're asking consent from the council, so I'm going to ask just if there's anybody in the public that wants to talk. Mr. Day.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ken Daig, 1846 21st Avenue. I have a question. The fencing, was that removed from around the entire building, from the sides of the building that you can't see?
Two sides.
Two sides. What about the sides that you can't see?
The sides on the road, evidently that was rental fence that the tenant had in there. The other fence evidently was freestanding and belongs to us, but they removed everything that was theirs.
Okay. I would ask the council to consider to protect the building while it's still under the legal end of it, to do something with the fencing. You don't want to take a chance on vandals coming in where they had the fencing before. I know you know where the building is. You all walk around downtown just to protect the asset until you decide what you're going to do with it.
Jim, is that something we can easily do?
I don't know about easily, but let me talk. I have talked to the police chief about keeping an eye on the building, so we try to keep down vandalism. As you know, one of the windows has already been damaged. I'm not sure how secure that fence is around there, but and we're going to spend some more money just so you also to bring you up to date on that. As you know, our tenant did a phase 2 and found an area that had contaminated soil. So myself, Monty Falls, the state, as well as our consultant, Sarah, met out on the site, walked over what we needed to do, and I have authorized up to $15,000 worth of a couple more test monitoring wells, as well as some soil samples that'll be taken, and try to get that thing behind us. There was no one in our group that felt like there was any major issue here, and so we're just trying to get everything cleaned up. When we put it out on the RFP for the sale of the property, in that proposal, I have asked the state, and I've got his business card, that is the environmental guy that's been handling this project from the beginning, also our consultant, and they both agreed that if somebody wants to do in their due diligence, contact them about the environmental issues. They're open and free to give whatever information and discussion they have, plus the volumes of detail that we have here in City Hall that anybody can go through. So again, it's as much transparent, but at the same time, at the end of the day, I would like to be able to say the city no longer owns that asset, if that's what we're referring to it as. And so we'll try to levy that. But going back, we will look in to see what a fence, some type of temporary fence would be.
I think technically it's an asset.
You know, assets theoretically have more value than the expenditures on that.
I see.
And as a banker, you could probably relate to that. So,
Wayne, I did stop you. I mean, you were looking for consent from the council.
Well, that's the route we're going to take, unless the council expresses an objection. We'll continue pursuing that. Unfortunately, Buck Vosell, who represents the tenants, has been in trial for last week, and he's still in trial this week. So we haven't been able to hook up and get a decision back from his client as to whether or not they want to do this to clean up those loose ends on the leasehold.
Okay.
But
I don't think we've got any.
I've got one more question for Mr. Comet. And some of the discussion opposing the all aboard Florida, it was brought up that it's possible that there may be a possibility that a municipality zoning code could be used to stop passenger service. That passenger service is an interstate issue, and that if you look at using the rails for passenger service as a non-conforming use, I know it's a stretch, but if there's anything there, anything that we can do to stop this train, to give them more of a headache, I think, it's worth taking a look at.
We'll look at it, but my recollection is when we look at the zoning map of the city, it doesn't even include the railroad.
No.
Those sections are like cut out of the zoning maps. We'll double check.
Okay, thanks.
I don't think we even have a survey of it.
Oh, I doubt it.
Yeah.
It'd be, adjacent property owners probably have surveys for their property, but.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Seeing that we have no old business, we'll move on to new business.
I'm sorry, I might have missed my opportunity. May I just speak about?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I didn't know when to move it appropriate. Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Michael Rector, 816 Iris Lane. I am potentially interested in this property, as you may or may not know, with the American Icon Brewery. I guess what I'm here for, I wanted to listen to the sort of dialogue between you all in reference to that property. My concern, or the reason I'm standing up here, is to try to encourage you to move the process along, and that's a selfish one. Obviously, I have no digs on the diesel plant at this stage. However, I do, and I was moving forward with another property with this plan, with this concept. And as such, I sort of put everything on hold while this is playing out. And I'm perfectly willing to. And I understand there's certain issues. I've spoken with Jim. He's great and has helped me to understand the process and what's required and how it would lay out. So I'm sort of ready for all of that. But I guess if I could just encourage sort of a process that would just give us some. And again, if it turns out that we're not the selected purchaser or what have you, that's fine. I guess the not knowing is probably the worst thing for someone in my position. So,
Michael, I think the council has told us that we could go forward with the RFP, so we'll be putting that document together. And like I indicated, we anticipate somewhere at about 45 days for any bidder to do their due diligence on the properties.
Great. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you.
Oh, congratulations for.
Thanks very much.
We have no old business, and we have one item for new business. Ms. Turnier, it's your item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to have a discussion of the resolution to support the House Bill 579. To support legislation to require full disclosure of FMPA operations to safeguard our ratepayers from speculative practices and mismanagement. As the Board of Directors of Vero Electric, we must have the financial information requested in this bill to effectively manage our utility. Currently, our liabilities are unknown. We've been a member of this organization for 38 years, and we still have no idea what our liabilities are, although we've been told it's significantly underwater. We owe the public a full report. This will determine the efficiency of this public organization that's had the advantage of utilizing tax-free bonds for its development. They need to be accountable.
Okay.
I provided a copy of the sample resolution that the county approved this morning of the 5-0. Note that the county does represent 60% of Vero Electric's customers. There has been a companion bill filed in the Senate by Senator Simpson on this issue. And I would make a motion that we move forward with a similar resolution to support this bill.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I was going to ask for public comment. I would assume there's going to be some public comment on this. No? Okay. Actually, quite frankly, I would support this with just one caveat, and that is if it helps us with the sale to FP&L. So, I mean, I would just amend that so that the resolution does add the language that this is for the purpose of facilitating our sale to FP&L.
I think the main purpose of this is to create transparency and for us to not in terms of a sale to anyone. I think it's going to create transparency and allow us to understand what the generation assets are worth. I think that's the most important part of this bill today.
I think the idea of having a public servant like myself be the only type of representative I don't think is correct. I think every municipality should make up their own mind about who should be there. I think in some cases, if we were choosing, I think sometimes we would choose someone like Tom Richards, who was head of our utility, or somebody like Jim O'Connor, or someone like myself, depending on the skill set of every municipality. I think they each should have their own choice. It's very hard for a public official who's going to serve only a couple of years to really get up to speed on the issues that surround a utility like FMPA. So I hope that the bill takes a different format when it's actually finalized. The other thing is, I think the learning the value of the assets really doesn't help at all. The assets you can't sell. It's really, you've got a stream of obligation to FMPA, that is we do, Vero Beach does. The asset, buying or selling the asset can't really happen. And so valuating it doesn't get you anywhere. The value can move depending on regulation. That is, if coal is regulated quickly, severely, so that CO2, for instance, can't be emitted anymore, then the value of that plant is nothing. But that doesn't change our obligation at all. So I think the bill is not well formatted, but I think the concept is okay. I think I would go along with the bill also.
Yeah, I commented. I'd like to read on page 4 of 10 of House Bill 0579, Mrs. Mayfield's bill. Number 1, a balance sheet that reflects assets and liabilities. The key word is liabilities associated with each generation asset, including the plant and service, accumulated additions and removals, net plant depreciation, operations and maintenance expense allocations, and any other material assets and liability categories, which in the case of St. Lucie, this is me talking now, would be the contingent liability. This bill does focus on assets and liabilities, and as such, on balance, I think it's positive.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and pull back on the amendment. I mean, quite frankly, I'd like to see this go forward as something that was actually helpful to the people of Vero Beach. Certainly, right now, you can ask any question of FMPA. They are a public organization. You have the sunshine laws. You also have the ability to make public information requests to them. The resolution that the county passed has the bottom whereas where they're adding in regulation. Certainly, I would hope that the resolution would actually get us someplace more positive than just regulation. But being that as it is, it's something that probably needs to be talked about.
I'm okay with it as it is.
Okay.
Of course, we'll need to bring back an actual resolution. And the only thing I would suggest is we'd probably take the whereas clauses and gear it more obviously to the city, and we could probably even mention we're a member of, the city's a member of FMPA.
Right.
I think the whole resolution, it's to the advantage of all the members of FMPA. I mean, when you have an elected official, somebody's going to come back and say, hey, guys, this is what we owe on these contracts. This information is not readily available in these cities and these municipalities. They don't have a clue. You have a municipal director that takes that, but they never come back and tell them. I was at a Lake Worth meeting, and they had just approved extending the bonds for projects. And the council members didn't have any idea. Oh, you've just increased our debt window by 20 years. This is why it's important to have an elected official. Knowing the value of the assets reflects the efficiency of the organization. And this is important. That's why it's important to have this data.
I move we adopt the resolution as it stands.
Well, the resolution isn't in front of you yet. We have to bring back the resolution. This is just a sample from the county, and we couldn't adopt it this way anyway because it's a resolution of the county.
I think there's a consensus.
We have to change it to the city.
There is
a consensus of council. You should take that step.
All in favor of drafting resolution?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Individual council matters. Mayor Richard Winger.
I'm not mayor.
It's your first time.
And I'm very happy that you are our mayor, Mr. Kramer. I can't tell you how much I feel.
Well, running meetings is not as fun as it looks, I can tell you that.
The only thing I have, if we're doing final comments, is the Blue Angels are having a pre-visit this Saturday morning, and that's about all I had to say.
Okay. I'll run through my items. Heritage Center. I've been working with the Heritage Center on the Starry Night screens. I hope people got a chance to go out and see that. It's they'll be showing more movies in the future, but basically it's just it's a high definition movie screen, almost like a drive-in movie theater in downtown Vero. Attended the clam bake up in Sebastian. It's kind of good to get to know our neighbors up there. They do a real good job, and it's good to support them every once in a while. The dog park fundraiser, Bark and Brew Fest, an amazing an amazing event for them. I think one of the problems we're going to have in the dog park is is actually grass. I think it's being used so much that they're wearing the grass down to the dirt. So we're going to have to find something to do about that issue. A couple of side events. I did attend the Sunshine Summit up in Orlando. That was a 3-day event, and the CareNet banquet. What a wonderful organization to support. And that was it was a real good turnout for that. With that, I can't turn it back over to myself as vice mayor, but I think I'm going to, Randy, I'm going to turn that to you.
Okay. Pilar, you asked about the municipal disclosure training.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for bringing that to my attention. I went through a training course with FMPA about municipal disclosures, and then talked actually to Wayne also about it. And I guess we're disclosing what we need to, and that's really not much to FMPA in terms of our bond issues. Yeah.
Yeah, Cindy, I consulted with her, and she says we do all the reporting that needs to be done with FMPA.
FMPA has sold its gas hedges this last week. And I can't tell you, I don't know yet what the total volume of the gas hedges was, but there was a surplus. We sold it at a profit, $5 million, and now there are no more gas hedges outstanding on the gas that we had part owner to. There's some cash that's been the cash that's it does accrue. They haven't figured out what to do yet. That's going to happen this next board meeting. But they did sell all the hedges. So that's and it's basically trying to reduce the contingent liabilities of FMPA. That's all I've got.
Ms. Turner?
Got a report from the Trainwreck Times. And actually, there's been some good news that the Fortress passenger rail line faces skeptical investors. This is according to Bloomberg News. 2 major fund buyers were quoted as saying they thought the bond deal was too risky, and it became clear that the FDFC-approved private activity bonds are not selling. Junk deals derailed as high-yield muni funds pull in less cash. The municipal bond market is forcing high-yield borrowers to scrap their junk. And that the FDFC postponed again the $1.75 million unrated bond sale for all aboard for the passengers. I think, and understanding that the bonds originally were released at 6% interest and did not receive rave reviews, even when they increased it to 8.5%, when a trial balloon was floated prior to this week. I think that these bonds are being pulled from the market and may reappear as bright line bonds in the coming year. But at least we've had some delay, and the market is reflecting our opposition to this project. It's an article on orca in the paper talking about finding a source of pollution and identifying an algae that appears early up in the canal area. And if we can try to attack that algae early on before that reaches our lagoon, we might have a more economical way of removing nutrients and phosphorus from our lagoons. So something good to be out watching. Although it isn't the first of the year, I think season is already in full swing with the amount of charitable events that are going on. The pleasure of going to the Press Journal with their reutilizing of this old Seminole building. It's a lovely old building with an outside deck area, and it's great to see that being put to use. I want to thank our police chief for our wonderful honor guard at Veterans Day. There was a time period where Vero didn't participate in those things, and it really warms my heart to see Vero Beach Police out there on that. And I had the pleasure of being a volunteer for a Vero Beach Police first 10K and 2-mile run last weekend out there with water stations, and they were able to raise some funds for a new camera. Now, it may be a bit early for thinking about Thanksgiving, but it will be here before we're back at Council, and I just want to take this time to recognize the many blessings in our lives and wish you all a very special day with those that you love.
Thank you.
Mr. Howell?
Yes, sir. Just a general statement here. Everybody knows this is my first meeting, and I've been on a few different boards over the last close to 10 years. This is a different animal, but I just want everybody to know that I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to serve with these fine people, and I hope I don't offer up comic relief in coming meetings. But present, I intend to do the best job that I can do, and I'm happy to be here. So thank you all very much.
No, Mr. Howell, I think you'll be a fine addition. We'll do real well this year. So
thank you, Mayor.
With that, I'm happy to say we actually made it under 2 hours. So if there's a motion to adjourn, I'd like to hear it.
A motion made.
Motion made. We are adjourned.
Great.